Roll Tide, everybody. And what a game it was for Alabama, knocking off Georgia. We've had a day to really soak it up, to think about it. I'm still happy. Maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I should be more concerned about the fact that Georgia actually got the lead in the fourth quarter. But you know what? I'm not. I'm just happy that we were able to rip their hearts out with Ryan Hollywood Williams again. They can't stop them. We're going to talk about that and more. Cover Crimson. Like and subscribe, and thank you guys for hanging out. Let's get this party started. Roll Tide, everybody. He's Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie, and again, Roll Tide, guys. Clint, right off the bat, wow, man. We got this guy. He's a 17-year-old high school senior, and he might be the best wide receiver that Bama's ever had, Ryan Williams. This guy, he's in the Heisman conversation now. Think about that.
I mean, not only is he in the Heisman conversation, he's going to get somebody in trouble. You know what I'm saying? He's a 17-year-old kid on a college campus. If someone makes the wrong move, someone's catching a charge. I mean, that's crazy to me.
He's not legal.
He's not legal. That's the way to put it. That's the simple way to put it. Which is just, this guy's over here carving up, Georgia defensive backs for USF, for Western Kentucky, for Wisconsin, for Georgia. Everybody's catching a little Ryan Williams. His consistency has been impressive. The fact that he's continued to get better each and every week, I don't think that's being talked about enough. And just the special talent, the combination of skills that this guy brings to the table, it's absolutely remarkable. It's fun to watch. The guy likes to have a little fun off the field too. He's very competitive. He's very business-like when it comes to the on-field stuff. But as soon as that game was over, he's putting on the chain. I think a lot of people were upset with the eye black that said, well, was it kill everybody? There were some old heads on Facebook that didn't like that too much. But I'm here to tell you, man, that's a kid having fun. The Michael Vick, did you see that on Instagram?
Tell me about this. I love this stuff.
There are going to be some people that don't love it. Mike might end up getting a call from PETA, to be quite honest with you. But he posted he changed his profile picture to a Michael Vick holding a dog, which, if you know anything about Michael Vick, didn't treat dogs the best. Neither did Ron Williams last night. That's going to rub some people the wrong way. I understand if it does. He ended up taking it down once it started to catch a lot of attention today and changed it back to an actual picture of him. But the guy, he'll do some, crazy things. Like, people think he's a little strange doing the TikTok dances, doing the, having his little sister paint his fingernails green. Everybody's like, man, this guy's different. He's certainly different on the field. I'll tell you that right now. And nobody can guard this guy.
Had a caller last night ask me who he reminded me of. And I said he reminded me of Willie Mays. And he's a baseball player, right? But he reminds me of Prince, too. There's just some charisma that this guy has on top of his ability to make plays. It's just different, man. And this guy's artistic when he does it. He's doing things that we've watched football our entire lives. I've never seen anyone make a catch like the one that stunned the Dawgs, man. Two guys running into each other. It looked like a video game. Really, he caught the ball. He makes a move. Just electric. There's a ballet to it. There is a finesse to it. I don't even think he knows how to run routes perfectly yet. I think he's still trying to figure out all the ins and outs of playing wide receiver at this level. But the guy's got amazing talent. And you know what? Michael Vick dog thing, if he thinks that's funny, I'm with him on that. I don't care. The fingernails, if his sister wants to paint his fingernails, paint them. People are allowed to joke around and have some fun. And Roll Tide, man. I love this guy.
He's 17. I know he doesn't look it when you're watching him on a football field, but he's 17 years old, man. He should be a high school kid. Should be enjoying himself a little bit. This is a new era. The fact that, this guy was not alive when the internet and social media wasn't a big thing. When he was born, Facebook was already huge. He's grown up from the time he actually started to become aware. Twitter's been around that entire time. So he's never lived in a world without social media. And social media today, they're doing the TikToks. They're having fun with it. He's got a podcast, and so, I mean, yeah, let the guy live his life. He's going to have fun with it. But one thing that you can always take to the bank with this kid is when it comes to, the weight room, when it comes to the film room, and when it comes to the field, he's going to take his business seriously, and he's going to do everything he possibly can, not only to position himself to be successful, but to position his team as well. And I mean, he's still youthful. Like, he's still showing some of those freshman issues. I know they're minor details, but early in the game last night, he didn't line up on the line of scrimmage. He was a yard back, had too many men in the backfield, cost Alabama some yardage on that penalty. It didn't matter. Jalen Milroe's the perfect eraser for any problems you might have on that front. But, he comes back and he's making a bunch of big catches. He's making it look effortless, which I think is the most impressive part. I mean, just watching him on that catch, that miraculous game-winning touchdown catch. I mean, just every single thing that you look for at the wide receiver position, the body control, the ball winning ability, the hands, making guys be able to miss, the start stop, all of it. He put all of that on display in one play. And, making, the Georgia defenders look silly with the spin move and all that. That was incredible. But to me, it was the fact that he was able to go up, get it, and when he landed, he immediately spun back to the inside, even though his momentum was carrying him out of bounds. And the fact that he kept his feet in, I mean, just one of the most impressive catches I've ever seen, and one of the most impressive performances from a wide receiver I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, elite, man. And there's not even a word for it, because we've had some greats, but the way that this guy's career started is just incredible. And I'm excited to see it. You were even telling me, you and I were talking I was talking to Chris today, one of my other buddies, and he was like, he was comparing Smitty's first 4 games, the year he won the Heisman, to the first 4 games that Ryan Williams has had. And it's like they have the same amount of touchdowns. Smitty had way more catches. And they're like, I think Ryan Williams was like 20 yards less. The guy went on to win the Heisman, but he didn't have a moment. He had the look, man. Smitty had some moments. I mean, nobody ever made a better catch than 2017 national championship game. He high pointed the ball at LSU. That was the Daniel Moore print. It was a great moment, but the play, I don't even know what else you call it. That catch he made yesterday to beat Georgia, and the everything you're talking about, that goes down as one of the greatest moments in Alabama football history. That goes down in lore right there.
Well, I mean, given the moment, I mean, just, what was on the line, that's a high pressure situation. I mean, you had just blown a 28-0 lead and a 37 lead. All the momentum was Georgia. They had just, the only thing that really had gone positive for Alabama prior to that was the fact that they had gotten the stop on the 2-point conversion. And it was at that point, Mick, that I thought, okay, I think Alabama's going to still win this football game, because I believed in Jalen Milroe, believed in Kalen DeBoer, their ability to work the offense down the field, get in field goal range. So once it became Alabama, I think that was critical, because it took pressure off of Alabama, where it's like, all we got to do is get in field goal range and we win this thing. For Georgia, once Alabama had scored and gotten their own 2-point conversion, the pressure's on Georgia. We're scoring. We're trying to score to tie the game and send this to overtime. It's not, if Alabama doesn't get their 2-point conversion, Georgia's like, we score a touchdown, we win this ball game. I think that's completely different. It gave Alabama enough cushion with a full touchdown, even though there's a part of me that had kind of wondered, and maybe, I kind of wanted your thoughts on this. I know we're kind of getting off topic a little bit, but do you think if Georgia does go down the field and score a touchdown, you think they go for 2? I think they do.
I don't know that they want to tangle with Alabama anymore, but you and I talked about this, and guys, a couple things I want to say as we kind of change gears here and talk about this game and how it went down. We're brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code next round to double your initial deposit. I got my next round football shirt on. It's one of my favorite, and I love this shirt, and you guys can pick this up as well. We're part of Disrupt the Media, and we appreciate all the guys at the next round. But use the promo code. They'll double your initial deposit when you use that promo code next round with your initial deposit. And look, I told you guys, take advantage of that line. Never bet against a home dog. And I mean, it wasn't like Georgia came in and they were that much better than Alabama. We found out Alabama's a lot better than Georgia. And you and I both think that way. We know it. We know that Bama's better. I know Georgia came back and they got the lead late. I'm not buying any of that. I saw Alabama absolutely dismantle that defense. And I think you and I can kind of tangle with that too. But when I look back at this game, I'm just like, Clint, I mean, I feel like there are so many positives for Alabama to take, and it almost maybe benefits them that they didn't blow out Georgia.
And yeah, in a lot of ways, I don't think people realize how difficult it is to play with a lead like that.
Yeah,
because it's such a balance. Like you kind of get into your own head as far as, if you play it wrong, you get blamed. And we talked about this a little bit on the post game show last night. But if you get too conservative and you're trying to run clock, which is exactly what you're doing, when you've got a 23-point lead going into the second half, you hold Georgia to a 3-and-out, they punt you the football. Now you've got it. Now you've been able to start grinding some minutes. Your mindset starts to shift. And that's kind of what it felt like for Alabama. I go looking back, I don't necessarily know that they got super conservative. Like I'm still working through the second half. I did notice some things in the second half that I both saw live and, I'm going back to confirm right now. But I don't think Alabama went super conservative. What I don't think that they didn't really take into account, they adjusted fairly quickly. But when it's 3rd and 6, it's 2nd and 6 because Georgia had adopted this mindset. We're not punting the football again. Yep. So Alabama's thinking it's a 3rd and medium to 3rd and long type of situation. They're approaching it that way when Georgia's got a completely different mindset. It's 2nd down for them. 2nd and 6 is very favorable. So in their mind, 3rd and 6 is very favorable. So they're calling plays based off of that. They're getting 4th and shorts and they're going for it. And Alabama wasn't able to get off the field for a variety of reasons. But I think that was a difference in mentality that really Alabama was getting them in a ton of 4th downs in any random typical situation. Georgia's continuing to have to punt the football away.
Right.
Everybody's talking about how poorly the defense played on the first 3 downs. They were doing extremely well. So my point is I understand, 4th down matters too, right? But how many times are you going to find yourself in that situation? And it did feel like that Alabama reached a point defensively, and I'm going back to confirm this, but where it's like, okay, what we can't do is we got a 23-point lead. We've held Georgia to a 3-and-out. They punted us the football. Alabama didn't do much with it offensively. They kicked it back to Georgia. And at that point, that's when Georgia had decided there's no such thing as punting it anymore.
Right.
We got to score. Yeah. And so with Alabama, they were playing this mentality of what we can't do is give up quick, explosive scores, because if we do that, Georgia gets points and they barely took any time off the clock. So give up some things, allow them to have some of that underneath stuff, rally, tackle, keep the clock moving. Even if you let them drive down the field and score a touchdown, if it's a long drive, if it takes a ton of clock, if we can get some stuff going offensively, get ourselves one good drive, which you had to feel really good about what your offense had been doing against Georgia's defense. It's like we can put this game away, let Georgia shorten the game all they want to. And that was presenting a lot of opportunities for Georgia underneath. Carson Beck's a good player, and they were capitalizing. And the fact that they were getting 4 downs to work with, I know it seems minuscule, but it adds up. When you go into a drive and you say, okay, all I got to average is 2.5 yards per play rather than 3.3 yards per play, because you're getting 4 downs instead of 3, that completely shifts everything. And I think that ended up making the biggest difference, which is why I'm not really freaking out about the way the defense performed in the second half. There were some concerning parts. There were concerning parts in the first half. But I'm not freaking out like most people are.
Yeah, look, I'm with you on that. I feel like, first off, you're exactly right on the 4th down thing. When you get your ass kicked up and down the field like they did in the first half and you're behind by so many, you don't have a choice. Now, all of a sudden, it's a 4-down game. I feel like this is a learning experience for Kalen DeBoer and Kane and all those guys. Look, you're not in the Pac-12 anymore. And look, no disrespect to the Pac-12, but you're just not there anymore. I mean, Georgia's a great team. They are a great team. And they've lost 3 games in the last, 45?
Yeah. And all of them been to who? Alabama?
That's it. I mean, and we heard all their fans talking all their crap on the comments, and we love it, man. Like, look, you're always invited here, Dawgs. If you guys, I'm sure you guys are getting ready for your big matchup against Auburn. We'll be pulling for you this week. But what I will say is that you guys were doing a lot of barking, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the Bama's your daddy. I mean, and that's kind of how it's worked out. 1-9 in your last 10. That's just the way it is. You're just another team in the SEC trying to beat Alabama, and it hasn't gone well for anybody.
Well, when you look at the way that they continue to be aggressive at the beginning of the second half, they held Georgia to a 3-and-out. The second, and here's the thing, that drive for Georgia, because of the penalty going into halftime on Miles McVay, Georgia got the football at the 47-yard line. Alabama still held them to 3-and-out. Granted, they didn't do much with it offensively. Had to punt it back. James Burnett did an excellent job on the punt. But then from that point forward, it was a different game. And once again, Alabama, there was their first fourth down attempt in the second half was a 4th-and-1. Georgia barely, and I mean barely, inches got that, conversion. Think about if they don't do that. Alabama's got the football on the 30-yard line going in, up 30-7. That one play could have kept it from being, Alabama needing a late game touchdown. And we're all talking about Ryan Williams and Jalen Milroe being the hero, to Alabama completely drumming them. It's a game of inches. And I understand because they converted that did shift things. And what happened is Alabama started losing momentum, and one thing about, like, I've gone back and watched it before, but I don't really remember too much about it. I was only 2 years old when it actually happened, but the 92 national championship game against Miami, from everything I can remember, Alabama was loading up the line of scrimmage, and they did it for the entirety of the game. They never got conservative. They were like, we're going all out. It's an absolute war for 4 quarters. You would, if, in hindsight, you would want Alabama to have adopted a similar mentality yesterday, even though I do feel like to an extent they did more of that than you think. I haven't seen a ton of conservative play other than we can't give up the explosives to Georgia. We have to take those away, keep things underneath, give them things underneath, and then rally to the football. Let's get some long, sustained drives, run clock. Let them do, screw themselves. And so, I have to go back and confirm that, but you would like to see a little bit more aggression at times. But really, when you look at that first, it was a 3-and-out to start the second half, 3 fourth-down conversions on that second drive, and they got just enough. But it was like a 4th-and-3 and a 4th-and-5, both manageable situations. It was nothing 4th-and-long, and then from there, it was touchdown, and there was a couple that were too easy. There was 2 touchdowns that I went back and kind of watched or have been watching that I did feel like that they just didn't play very good football, including the long explosive play. But, I think for the most part, then the ensuing drive, it was 11 to play, 55 yards, let them drive down a little bit, but then you get an interception. They had a strip sack on one that I don't think they were able to recover. But, I mean, they were making plays defensively. I don't think it was nearly as bad as people think that it was.
I don't feel, but Clint, I don't feel like it was bad. I know some people were worried about it because of the way that things went down and we didn't have the lead, but I totally, and we don't always agree on all of this stuff. I mean, the Alabama football team better than anybody I know, which is fun hanging out with you. But I also have my perspective on things, and we kind of hash it out on here. But you are so right about everything that you're saying right now. I never thought Bama was going to lose the game. And I know they were behind by a point with 2 minutes to go. And I know I didn't like the way that they managed the clock. I'm going to be honest. I thought that they should have waited and snapped it. I thought they should have ran the ball better. I thought Milroe should have let the running backs establish a little bit more of the run game. I think we should have came out in the third quarter and gone for the jugular. Really. I mean, even with the big lead, I would have loved to have beaten. Alabama could have scored 60 off of these guys. But at the end of the day, when Georgia had the lead, it took one play, to finish them. One. And I know Ryan Williams did some amazing stuff, but we were going to score anyway. Like the only reason we didn't score much in the second half is because we chose to go conservative. Like you were saying, man, we kind of backed it down a little bit. There's so many big things here. Big things as far as where this offense is, utilizing our roster offensively. The offensive line, not perfect, but pretty damn good. But I'm going to tell you something else, is that Jalen Milroe might win the Heisman Trophy. Now, suck that in, everybody. Feel that. I'm telling you right now, he might win the Heisman Trophy. If you for those of you that look at the things that he can't do, they're getting the list is going from like this to like this. I thought his mid-range game was fantastic. I thought that the passing game that he had was marvelous. But when I watch him run the ball, he finds a way to get into the end zone when we need him to get in there. When that game was tight at the beginning, he takes over with his legs. Clint, I think that this guy might be the best player in the country.
There's a couple of people who are certainly in that conversation, but there's no way you can't put Jalen Milroe in there right now. And we talked about that last night as well. But just going back and just watching some of the things that he was able to do, and I kind of wish I would have gotten the play. But his ability as an eraser, and I talked about this on Twitter. I shared one of his plays. It was the one where was able to shed the sack. What happened is Alabama, I think he got a holding call. It had gone from 1st and 10 to 1st and 20. Not in a good situation at all as far as getting down there in the red area. Alabama had been so good as far as converting touchdowns when they get down there. And it looks like, okay, 1st and 20, that's really tough to overcome. They're probably going to have to kick a field goal and take a 3-0 lead on the first drive of the game. What happens? Alabama motions to empty. And by doing that, you have 5 offensive linemen. Georgia sends 6. So they know they got numbers. One guy's coming free and clean. Jalen Milroe is able to elude pressure, shed the sack, take off, and then he's able to turn what should have been probably an 8 or 9 yard sack to put Alabama in 2nd and 28, 2nd and 29 into a 2nd and 4. Such a manageable second down situation, and that ultimately led Alabama to getting a touchdown. And that was you can say, okay, that goes from 3 points to 7 points. So that's a 4-point differential guaranteed.
Right.
But I mean, with the way that we're kind of questioning Graham Nicholson a little bit, even though it's such a small sample size to work with, I mean, only 2 field goals, it was no guarantee if you're sitting back there, it's a 48, 49 yard field goal probably at that point. That's not a guarantee make either. So it could have been a 7-point swing. And, I think that was so crucial, but that exact situation put on display what Jalen Milroe brings with his legs. But I thought he did some of that type of stuff last year against Georgia. It didn't look as smooth. He didn't look as confident doing it. It seemed more reactive. This feels like, when he's taking off and running like he did on that play, it almost feels like that's the design. Like he wanted that to happen. He expected it to happen. And I just think that you watch these guys do a lot of that stuff, and it's like Lamar Jackson's really good at that. It just feels like he's setting the defense up, just baiting them to do certain things. But not only that, he made so many plays with his arm. And Georgia was not expecting when Alabama does motion out to empty, typically it's either quarterback run or it's a shot play. Instead, in this game, Alabama motions out to empty, and it's like the short, quick passing game. And Kirby Smart even mentioned at halftime, they weren't expecting that. That's not something that they had shown. So that was in the repertoire for Jalen Milroe this entire time. They just didn't need to show it. And they caught Georgia off guard, and they established a 28-0 lead as a result. That was absolutely huge, Mick.
Yeah, you mentioned, too. You said these guys are playing possum, and they were playing possum. They won all those games at the beginning of the season without having to use and on defense, too. I mean, think about some of the blitzes. I mean, they had guys in Carson Beck's face the entire first half. We got tired in the second half, and you do, man. I mean, you're not made to play 70 plays. I mean, like, that's just the way it is on defense. But I thought that this was a coming out party for Kalen DeBoer. I think that we all know now, like when Kirby was like, I'm not worried about Alabama. You better be worried about Alabama, Kirby. You better. And I've got nothing but respect for Kirby. Always done things the right way when it comes to the way that he left Alabama for Georgia, made sure we won the national championship, stuck around for the players and done that. It's a program that's built Nick Saban's Alabama's reflection. But times have changed, man. And what I'm seeing is the continuity of this coaching staff, Clint, and also personally, I didn't like the whole T-Rob thing, and I didn't like the Caleb Downs thing. I've talked about this with you. I've talked about it on the show. Go get a refund on that because your defense isn't good enough anymore. It just isn't, I feel like I'm very, very confident in Alabama. And for those people that haven't put Alabama in the national championship conversation, because I know there's a lot of people that watch Paul Feinbaum who said the dynasty's dead. He's wrong again, man. Wrong again. And I mean, look, I get it. He that's kind of his job. How many times has the Alabama dynasty been dead to old Paul?
Hey, I wonder if we'll get the same treatment for Georgia. I mean, they lost in. I understand they ended up coming back. They made it respectable. I think Kirby was very appreciative of their ability to come back because that goes from a very different. We're having a very different discussion today. I'm still kind of approaching it like it was a blowout. I mean, it feels. A lot of people have made the comparison already, but it does feel 2008 Georgia blackout, where Georgia in that game, Alabama did, maybe get a little conservative. Georgia fought and clawed and climbed their way back into it. But you exit that game thinking Alabama won that soundly. Alabama was clearly the better football team. I felt like Alabama was clearly the better football team last night. And we can have that discussion if you want. If they see Georgia again, it's tough to beat a team twice because Alabama will approach it and say, okay, these are things that we did well. We'll continue to do some of those things. I'm sure they'll throw some new wrinkles on there. But Georgia takes the approach of we scrap everything. It did not work. Maybe a lot of what you did in the second half, some of the adjustments you made that did work, you implement some of that. But as far as what they have going in, they're going to be a much different team in a second matchup, if there is a second matchup, than Alabama will be, which is why it's difficult to beat a team twice. And hopefully, with a guy like Kalen DeBoer, what did he do against Oregon? He beat Oregon twice, right?
That's what I was just going to say that, man. I'm not worried about Georgia twice. Bring them on.
You know what? And I think that is, something that we need to be talking about more when it comes to Kalen DeBoer. Is he kind of understood? And from what I remember, I'll need to go back and check first Oregon matchup versus second because they all kind of run together. But it did feel like they did some things differently in that second matchup that maybe, they were good at staying ahead of that and not getting trapped in this. Okay, we did this, it worked, let's do this again. And that kind of makes sense. I was extremely impressed with the preparation that Alabama had for this game. They took full advantage of their bye week, and just the playing with a chip on their shoulder, offensively and defensively. And I'm going to continue to reiterate, defense is a part of that conversation too. It's not just the offense.
All right, Clint, this about does it for the show, guys. And what I want to tell you is Clint's going to be breaking down every single snap of this game. I love what he does with sometimes he'll just throw something out there. Hey, this is what we did every third down. He's going to do that there. Cover Crimson, covercrimson.com. If you do the covercrimson.com annual membership, you get the Cover Crimson t-shirt. Take advantage of that. But you can also sign up for just $1 and hang out with us. Here's my final thought, Clint. Georgia's not playing the light schedule anymore. I'm sorry. They're not. You don't get to hide behind the Vandy and Missouri games. And everybody wants to pretend Missouri's good. I'm not buying it. You're not playing that schedule anymore. You got to go to Texas. We'll see if you guys make it. But what I'm saying is that nothing's changed when it comes to the team in Tuscaloosa. So I'm looking forward to Vanderbilt. Then I'm looking for South Carolina. I'm excited about where this team is right now. And guys, stay tuned tomorrow. We're gonna be back on with you. We're gonna let you know what the injury report is, and we'll start getting you ready for Vandy. Georgia's in the rearview mirror. And honestly, look, if Alabama plays Georgia again, don't be surprised if it's not another loss for them. That's the bottom line.
I mean, I can't disagree, Mick. I mean, I'll tell you, and it's easy to do now, but I would pick Alabama in a rematch for sure.
Me too.
I feel like they were a lot. Now Georgia's going to be a different team at the end of the year. Alabama's going to be probably a different team. They're going to get some things figured out, get better in some places. I don't think Georgia will be able to capitalize on Alabama vertically like they did at times last night. I think that secondary is going to be more mature. They're going to be more seasoned, and they're going to be much more effective consistently. And I'll say on the first deep ball from Carson Beck, I mean, I don't think Xavier Brown was in perfect position. But he was in a spot where I think if you ask Kane Womack, hey, you let Georgia get deep a couple times. I don't think just like the first time that he got asked about it and he didn't address one of them. Everybody thought there was 3 times where USF got behind him. He only mentioned 2, and it was because Xavier Brown was enough in phase where it was going to take a perfect throw from Byron Brown. It was a similar situation with Carson Beck on that first throw. And to Carson Beck's credit, he did put an elite on the money throw, and it just went through the receiver's hands. But, it wasn't like Xavier Brown got torched on that play. He was not in terrible position. He was even able to get up and get a hand to at least try to affect the pass or affect the receiver's focus. It's just, and maybe it did. I mean, they did go through the receiver's hands, so maybe he did enough to keep that from happening. But they got some things they got to work on. But I think they'll be a much different team at the end of the year, just like Georgia. And the fact that Georgia was able to come back, Alabama's got some things that they can point to and continue to work on and get better.
Yeah, and look, if Georgia's the team we got to play to win the national championship, bring them on. Last time I checked, they were 1-9 against Alabama in the last 10. Go ahead and put that dub up there for us, and another trophy in the cabinet. Oh, just like last year with the rings. I'm so sick of hearing about how great Georgia is. I know they've won, but they've also played a light schedule. We'll worry about them if we see them again, Clint. But at the end of the day, I feel exactly like you do. They're lucky that they were even in this game. But you know what? They got to worry about Auburn, so I hope they have a good week. Hey, guys, get in the comment section. You tell me what you think after kind of having a little bit of time to chew on this. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Sunday. Like and subscribe to our channel. I know that's 2 things that we want you to do right now. But, look, you can do 2 things. I mean, Bama just did something pretty impressive. We want you to do that. It's a way of saying Roll Tide. Thanks for being here on Cover Crimson, and we will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Roll Tide, everybody.